Okay, go ahead.
All right, let me pull the agenda up. So we can call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is approving the minutes dated September 14th, 2020. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
Also move.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Great, thank you, Lynn. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Awesome. All right, next up we have topics from the floor. I think Jenny is the only one who's on the meeting who's not on the agenda. Jenny, did you have anything you wanted to state before we?
I was just going to offer a comment. I spoke with Councillor Morton this morning, and I guess there's an agenda item in his report, and I just had input on that, not a specific separate item.
Okay.
I'm just trying, I don't want to take over the meeting or cause confusion, so that's why I leave my video off until I'm called on, because I'm not on the agenda. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else? I don't see anybody else on the call. So let's go ahead and jump to Councilor's report. Doug?
Thank you. And you know, one of the reasons I was asking if Jerry was aboard, because he's been so instrumental in working with the urban trail, and the urban trail has a lot of kind of man and woman hours behind it in terms of how that could function and how it could work out in our urban environment. And I'm getting a lot of I'm getting a lot of kind of like, hey, what are you doing with trails? What's going on? What's happening? So, you know, the Parks Commission has been on the right track with developing a city urban trail. And I just hope that really gets some traction with our staff. And I understand that maybe Recreation is working with starting to look at urban trails and trail system. And here we go. It's like, is one part of the staff pulling against the other part of the staff? Or are they working together? Well, it's the way I see it, we aren't working together. And I'd like to see somebody on the staff really take the bull by the horns and start thinking about urban trails, especially since our Parks and Trails Commission that's part of our task. And secondly, that I know that Recreation is taking a good look at what they can do with trails, and it's all there. So I certainly hope to see our staff work diligently in going forward with the urban trail segment. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to throw out, and I hope that we get some traction on it.
Hey, Doug, quick question on that. How do we get movement on that? Because we bring it up almost every Parks and Trails Commission meeting. So I guess what is the way to get traction on that and get it prioritized?
I think that maybe Sue can take that back to her staff meetings, to the city staff meetings, and say, hey, look, where are we on this? Because I know that Parks is represented at those meetings, and so is Recreation. And it seems to me like I'd like to see the staff go forward on that and get some. Now, if that's going to take, again, some kind of recommendation for me to take to the council and say, this is going to be an action item. We really need help on this. Or we really need safety concerns, and we really need to get this kind of going. So, hey, I've been around the world, and I've seen a lot of trails go out on streets and go in and off of sidewalks and do this and do that. And go through wooded areas as well as sidewalks. Hey, it's possible, and we're such a small community and a small town in many senses that we should be able to make this happen if we can.
Yeah.
So, and that's just, I hope I answered your question, Carmen.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I guess,
I'll bring it to the,
yeah.
if you folks give me a recommendation or a council recommendation for an action item, I'll take it to the council and we'll talk it on put it on the agenda and talk about it and try to make it an action item if we can. But I'm very proactive on that. Maybe I'm just one counselor that is speaking out, but I don't think so. I think I've got at least 2 others and possibly 3 behind me. So I just think the time is now to do that.
And we have made recommendations in the past to City Council, and we did a presentation to City Council before. So do those still stand, or do we need to make a new recommendation?
Make a new recommendation.
Okay. Go ahead,
John's
John.
waving his hand.
Well, Jerry just
I
joined.
just waved.
Hi,
I
Jerry.
don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah, I had
Oh.
to. I've had all sorts of problems. I had to move upstairs here. Beautiful where you're at.
Are you in golfer's heaven?
I'll talk to you later about that.
So Sue,
Yeah.
I think you had some feedback.
Yeah, I'm in favor of expanding our trail system. The issue right now is just staffing capacity. I know I don't have capacity, me personally, or my department to take on that at this point in time. Maybe early next year, when some of these really time-sensitive projects that we're currently working on, and I have a large construction project just getting ready to start, plus 3 other really fast-tracked projects trying to get out the door all within the next few weeks, and they're going to take quite a bit of time. So I personally don't have the time to walk this through. Not that I don't want to forward this type of work, but there's just not staffing capacity on our end right here to do that. And I don't know if Thad doesn't have that capacity. He's already short-staffed. So that's kind of where our issue is right now.
Did I get some information, bad information, that Shauna is aggressively looking at developing some trails in the recreation sector? And if Shauna's listening, I hope she can weigh in on that.
Yeah, Shauna's here, and if that's correct, I don't have that information.
I'm here, and my trail stuff is just programming that we're doing on the trail. So we have a few walking groups and a stories trail, but as far as developing trails, as far as I know, recreation and parks are different, and so I don't have any planning plans on those.
Okay, and so in terms of having a staff look at the development of trails, Shauna, are you interested in that?
That would be something that I would be interested in exploring more to see how that would all work. Yeah, I really enjoy our park system and such, but I just want to make sure that it's a good flow and what the city is doing, because parks and recreation right now are 2 separate departments currently.
Right, and we are parks and trails, and I really want to make certain that we catch up on the second part of that of being trails as a commission. We're combined with the pedestrian and bicycle group, and the pedestrian group deals definitely with trails. And I just hate to see that on the back burner. And I know that we have, is Paul aboard today, Paul Barlow?
Not here.
Okay.
No.
I've talked to him personally about kind of seeing what he thinks about, new trails and that kind of thing. And I think he's kind of slammed with time. But anyway, I'd just like to see, with our Parks and Trails Commission, I'd really like to see trails go forward. I know John has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to know is two things. One, parks and trails and parks and rec are all in the general fund. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
And so the budget for those is out. What is the fiscal needs for this project? Is there a cost involved, or are you talking about just using staff time to carve it out, or what's required, or would you need to study that?
I would think that the big thing is that a lot of the volunteers, especially on the Parks and Trails Commission, have already kind of identified an area for an urban trail, and there seem to be some roadblocks in many senses, but they seem to be. I don't think they're that big of a hurdle to get over. It boggles my mind when someone comes up with some really good ideas. This is happening throughout the state. People are looking at our area. They want to get out and walk. Where do they walk? Well, if there's a trail for them to walk, they'll walk. If there's no trails, they'll sit in their car. I mean, what do we want? We want our citizens to get out and walk and move around the city. And the kids now are asking for places to walk to do their PE credits. And I mean, and we're sitting here and we don't have it. Does that bother me? It bothers me immensely, immensely. And I think that we can do better. And so that's the nature, that's kind of the nature of the report of what I have for where we're at with trails. I hope I'm clear, John.
Yeah, Doug, if I might, my suggestion is that we do continue with going to the city council and try and make it an action item. And nothing's going to happen in the immediate future, but in the next 6 months, about the time the budget would come into effect next year, if we need money for, I don't know, for gravel or for wood for stairs or what all we need, but we could kind of gather all those things together in our volunteer resources and see what we're going to do. I mean, somebody's got to plan. I mean, Jerry's done a good job of getting us the basics of it, but I don't know if the actual physical layout of it is covered yet or not. I'm out of the loop on that. So, but you may know. Partially, Jerry, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I want to talk, but
Howard has his
I can't
hand
find
up.
the raise the hand sign this week for some reason.
So Howard has his hand up, so let's let Howard go, and then Jerry, you can go after Howard.
Okay. Yeah, no, the thing that I really see is that mainly, I mean, we've got the trail basically designed. I think with the new steps up out of Gray Cliffs Park, the new addition of the 5th Street Trail, I think that we've got it all right there. What we really need is just some input time and the signage and deciding a few little areas like in my area on how we're going to delineate a trail on a couple of the streets up here. Otherwise, I think we're ready to go with it, you know. To me, the biggest hurdle is we need a little bit of staff time to, you know, dot the I's and signage. And really, the number of people that I see walking our trails and going through Nob Hill Nature Park, I don't see why we can't tap some of the tourism money if we need some money for signage. That's tourism. You know, that's bringing people to the city, and that's getting people to get out and walk and enjoy our parks and our new trails and everything else. It'd be great if we could try to get something done over the winter. So next spring, we could have a kickoff. We never had a real opening for the 5th Street Right-of-Way Trail. It'd be great if we could try to get something going. So I think we should do an action item to try to push, you know, to let the city council know we were really like to see this happen.
Thank you, Howard.
Jerry, and then Lynn after Jerry.
Oh, I get to talk. Okay. Well, over a year ago, I know Carmen and Howie and myself, and we made a proposal for an urban trail. And, you know, we've talked about that quite a few times. Last week, I went for a walk with Rachel Berry, and she said, you know, she's really in favor for it. And for all the reasons you guys said, it really promotes the city, gives people a place to exercise. and I think it would bring money in here. She talked about health, and she talked about economic development, and she also talked about tourism. So, and she's willing to, you know, work with other people in the community. So a trail really does encompass a lot of people. The thing that I keep harping on every time we talk about this trail is we spend a lot of time, the subcommittee, designing that figure-8 trail that we call the historic waterfront trail with 2 loops to it. You know, the river loop and the marina loop. I think, you know, we need to go ahead and, you know, do one trail, get that trail set up for all the reasons we've talked about, and then after that trail set up, then we can start adding other things to it. The trail that we have has lots of options off of it, and that people can go. And like I said, Rachel Berry was really for it, and I think it really would be a great way to promote our city, both, you know, economically, tourism, health-wise, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Jerry.
And Lynn, go ahead.
Okay. You've heard me say this before, but I agree with Howard. We need to make sure that we get access, public access at Dalton Lake Nature Preserve at the south end, as well as Madrona Court. That would provide a lot of people in the south area of St. Helens there to have access to Dalton and to walk through the trees and to explore what we're going to be having there. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Lynn.
One other thing that I wanted to note is the staff capacity piece. That's been brought up. I think that's brought up in every meeting that we have. It's brought up in every annual report to City Council that the biggest roadblock that we have is there's not enough park staff to be able to accomplish everything that we want to accomplish. And so because that has been a roadblock for years now, is there possibility for suggesting that the city explore adding additional park staff so that some of this stuff can get accomplished?
And Carmen, that's a good suggestion, and I'm all for that. We do need additional park staff. But more than that, we have people on our staff that can get together and figure a way to do this. And I brought up the recreation part of that. Someone else brought up tourism. So there are people in other departments other than just parks that can help out on the planning and identify what is needed to get this going. And I think part of it is the identity of what's really needed and what are those hurdles to get over to make this go. And because I think just looking at it, it seems to me like 70–80% of it is planned out and pretty much finished. Hold on, Ann, I'm on Zoom. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other comments about that? And do we want to move forward with making a motion?
Would it be okay if I made a comment about trails?
Yeah, go for it, Jenny.
I had a conversation with Councilor Morton. It was one of the 2 things we talked about. I'm getting calls and emails from citizens regarding recreation opportunities for their kids in lieu of PE. And we have a huge resource of trails already in existence that when asked, I couldn't find information to direct them. And so that I was embarrassed and I was like, but it's right here. I can come pick you up and take you there. But we didn't have an easy way to give them that. And I know that maybe some of you were around, but I know when we did the wayfinding signs with Jenny Dimshow, that they talked about all those trails. And I know Dan Carey gave them information. Howard, you gave them information. Lots of citizens were at that town hall kind of meeting, and all those little dots were put on that map. And so, I mean, I know that there's information about the current trail inventory out there. And I know that years before that, there was a little 3-fold trail brochure that
Mhm.
existed. So I think for me, I think if you started out with the inventory, I think that you look at that and you could have the concept at least of Jerry's trail that he told the council about a while ago, and then we can go for grants that might help him implement that. But I think that given we've got all the fall and winter, and Oregon winters are so mild, and who knows how long these kids are going to be distance learning, you know, I want this community to see all the trail work you've already done. The Nob Hill Nature Park stairs, all of the back staircases that have been upgraded and made safe, that extra trail on Fifth Street. I couldn't tell somebody how to get there. So that was just kind of, might be a starting point, is just getting that all kind of wrangled together like a bunch of stray cats.
I
So
think
that was,
Matt was working on updating the website pages. I looked at some of that so that all of that content is easy to find. So that's I would say in a better place than it was maybe a month ago. And Sue,
Yeah.
you had your hand up.
Yeah, Matt did, he reformatted that brochure so that when you look at it, half of it's not upside down. And it is on the website, on the parks page, and it does show the trail systems through McCormick Park, around Dalton Lake, Nob Hill Nature Park. It doesn't include the little extension through the new little Fifth Street portion, but it even's got trails on Sand Island and the Rutherford Pathway, and all of that is on that little map, and that's on the parks webpage.
okay, I'll have to look and see if I can find it that way. I
It's super easy. Just go straight to parks, and it's the very at the bottom of the parks page. It's the very first PDF link.
Okay, I know because I've lived close into town for the last 10 years. I know where all the stairs and little trails are. And I just think there's too many citizens that don't realize those opportunities exist. That's all.
Thank you, Jen.
Once COVID's over, maybe we'll have to do walking tours and
Well,
get people to go out walk and show them where these things are.
Well,
you
it
know.
might be super cool to do it now, to do Trail of the Month or something. Do it with the rec group is meeting and doing stuff. They could do, you know, little 10-second shot. Here's our discovery today kind of thing. And people could go later with their family, like the Storybook Trail. It
Mhm.
could be super cool. It's just people like that when you take a picture and they're like, where is that? Show me, Ginny. So anyways.
Thank you, Jenny.
Carmen, I have a comment on that.
Go ahead,
So,
Jerry.
so Jenny, what you're talking about is one of the issues that I think the subcommittee, you know, Carmen and Howie and myself came up. There is lots of trails in St. Helens, and they are listed, but most of them are not very large. You can go to, you know, a park. Maybe the Rutherford Parkway is fairly long, but most of them are just bits and pieces here and there. And one of the reasons that Howie and Carmen and myself
And Elisa.
Lisa, you know, put it together is to connect the trails together, because the trail that we I wouldn't say designed, that, you know, that we kind of hooked up, it's actually probably got it's got the trail that, you know, along the waterfront. It's got the trail that goes through Nob Hill Park. It's got the trail that goes through oh gosh, what's the park down on 4th Street? I've only been through it a jillion times.
Godfrey Park.
Godfrey Park.
Yeah,
You know, the Gray Cliffs Park, the trail, and we got that, and it actually goes down to the courthouse. So all these, there's lots of bits and pieces, but they're not connected together. And the urban trail, the one that we'd like to get started, does connect a lot of the trails together. And my dog decided to come and see me. A lot of the trails, the urban trail that was designed would connect a lot of these together. And then eventually, there, like I mentioned a while ago, there's lots of side trails that could come off of it. So most of the trails, Jenny, to answer your question, in St. Helens are very short, and most of them are located in parks.
Yeah, the ones that you're doing that connects to the stairs, like the Dockside stairs, the Nob Hill stairs, the 4th Street stairs. Those are super cool that people don't know about. And for somebody that maybe doesn't want to do, it's a rainy day and you don't want to get muddy, it's a super option. But the other thing I didn't mention this to Councilor Morton is because I'm a walker by nature, is that I don't think a lot of people realize the path that's at PUD and the path that's at Scappoose Bay and the path that goes down by the animal control shelter. And those are all places where people can enjoy time with their family or their dog or with their kids or for PE class. I think that we have a bigger regional draw for outdoor recreation than we realize.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Jane.
I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox. I gotta shut up.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. I
Well,
appreciate
I'm
it.
glad someone, I mean, there's a lot of support for the urban trails. And I think it's kind of like Sue said, the big issue is people and money to get it to happen.
The big issue is that we've got to take it to our staff and make it happen. You know, that I'm as a council person, I don't want any more excuses. I want to go forward with this trail system. And I've got counselors behind me. And if they have to drop, if a staff has to drop what they're doing and pick up the pieces and go forward, well, that's what we're going to ask them to do. That's what I'm going to ask them to do. So Carmen, I hope I answered your question of going to the council. The council has heard it, they've known it, and we've got a council member here today joining us saying, yes, it is extremely important. Well, I can tell you that there's 2 more counselors right behind Jenny who's also saying, yes, it's really important. So if you want action, I think you're going to have to ask for it, and I will create that spark on city council if I can.
Well, let's make a motion then.
John has one more comment, I think, and then let's try to make a motion and move on to the next.
I just think I'm hearing a lot about different trails and different parks and different areas. And are we basically talking about the urban trail right now, or do we need to prioritize the trails that we're going to be working on? I'm a little vague on what's going to happen, what we're asking the council to do.
I think movement on urban trail.
Right. The council's heard the issue about urban trail once in a very good presentation. And, you know, well, I just want to review that and get it going as an action item. Is that, and then we can go, John, I think we can continue to do that. Because if you think about the planning part of it, it doesn't take a whole lot of money to plan where trails can go. And our subcommittee did that with no funds, with no grants, with whatever. You went out and you identified a very workable solution to an urban trail. And what's better? Have tourists come here and have people come here and start walking on their own around the town and end up out on a yellow stripe on a street where they don't know where they're going and asking questions? Or do we have it planned where they could go? And then we can build from there. That's my idea. That's what other communities, small communities have done. And no, they didn't have the $500,000 grant to bring in the excavators and make a trail. They just made it happen. And some of those places are functional and very desirable to be in and explore as we get into those communities. And obviously St. Helens has the potential to be one of those communities. So that's where I'm at. Okay.
Could somebody make a motion, Carmen?
Yeah, who wants to make a motion?
The dog does.
Barry, do you want to be the one to make the motion?
No.
No.
I missed the first part of this. And so
Okay.
I didn't get the introduction about what brought up all this conversation.
It's in the counselor's report.
But I was having trouble getting on, so maybe have Howard make it or someone else.
Okay, Howard or John?
Okay, let's see if I can draft it right. I'd like to make a motion that we get the city council to take a closer look at creating the urban trail system that has already had a preliminary input and design to try to move it forwards. I only got one thing that I would like to say in there is that I think we probably would run the trail slightly different and run it up the new boardwalk area rather than kind of through my neighborhood, because that's just a beautiful area. But oh God, does that make sense?
Give me
Sherry?
just a couple words of what to do.
Sherry, do you have that? Is that work for a motion?
I got the basic gist of it.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's okay. I just want to make sure Sherry has it for the record. So
Could they read it back?
We'll come over here.
what was that, John?
Could they read it back? I'm not quite sure what the motion was.
You want to
You
try
want me
and
to say it
restate?
again?
Yeah, if you can.
I think it
I'm
needs
gonna
to
say
be
it
a
again.
little more succinct.
I'd like to make a motion that the Parks and Trails Commission ask the city council to try to move the urban trail forwards that we designed a year ago. We got probably 80% of the work done, that we just need to get signage and fill in a few loose ends.
The last part off.
All right, who wants to second it or make modifications?
I'll second it. If you,
I think Elisa
I moved to amend
seconded.
it so that it's a little shorter. Cut the part off about what we've already done. Just consider it an action item.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think there's lots of, as Carmen and Howie and all of us know, like along 3rd Street up there, and Cherry knows that, we've got to find a way for people to walk safely along that road.
But I don't think this needs to be part of our motion. I think just getting staff to look at it is the first step, and then staff can reach out to the subcommittee to
I agree, but
to
there's lots
sort
of
through
work
all
that
the
needs to
details.
be done.
Yep.
Yeah, there's still lots of work to be done.
So do I hear a motion? Am I going to?
There is a motion.
Okay.
There is a motion. It sounds like for city staff to take a look at the urban trail and try to move it forward. That's
Thank
my
you.
take on it in a nutshell.
I'll second that, Carmen.
John is seconding. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All righty.
Thank you, guys. Good work. I appreciate it so much. It was somewhat long and drawn out, and I apologize for getting a little hot under the collar, but it's frustrating. Okay, so we'll go forward with that. And one of the things that following up on my report, one of the highlights in the past year accumulated on with Lynn Pettit down at Dalton Preserve, as we met up with CREST, and Jason Smith took us around Dalton Lake to kind of reveal the not plans, but the concept of the area and what could be done. And I found that extremely informative. I found it a very positive kind of thing for our community. It's unbelievable, and I'm really glad that Jason is here today to, he's a project manager for, and CREST stands for Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force. And so I was thrilled to be there, and overwhelmed with a lot of knowledge that the participants on his workshop shared, and their note-taking and their commitment to move forward with that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Jason's presentation today, and I just wanted to pass that on to the Parks Commission, how rewarding it was for me to be with Lynn and go through that presentation. That's it for my report. I wanted to, at this time, however, there is a lingering part of my report. I wanted to introduce our council person who you've already heard from, and Ginny Carlson has wanted to share some thoughts, and so I'm going to reserve the rest of my report for Ginny to share any overviews that she might have of the Parks Commission and what you're doing.
I had asked Doug about the park equipment and the inclusive project that you're working on for McCormick Park. And I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't get lost in the weeds. I'm overthinking it. And if I could just finish, I'll let you have your meeting, okay? But I know that I have been involved in several parks projects that I thought I could do on my own, and it took forever. And I did one project and I went to Thad and I let Thad use his expertise and let him take the lead on it. And the project came out flawlessly with public works staff, and they got it done, and the community came together, and it was amazing. And I think that sometimes we forget what a resource he is and what his bench strength is and what knowledge he has. And I just think he has a lot going on. And I don't know where you guys are in the process, but Thad has a lot of knowledge and is a real champion for inclusion in our community. And I just want to make sure that his work is not diminished, or, you know, I had heard that he had it all ready to go and you guys changed paths. And I just wanted to appreciate Thad and all his hard work and just make sure that this project doesn't get lost. You know, a lot of times we get paralyzed with indecision and meetings and forums and one more hearing and we never move the ball forward, you know, like the urban trail. And it's like, let's get this money together and do something good for our kids and for our citizens. So that's just where I wanted to weigh in. Not everybody in the community knows the work that Thad's done for the special needs community and how much they revere him and appreciate him and how much he gets people with special needs. And I guess I'm Thad's champion today. And I'm just a huge advocate for what he's done in the parks. Every time I've brought any project to him, he's like, we'll make it happen, Janie. We got it going on. It's like, you want to do the chili cook-off with us? Bring them down. And I have people with special needs cooking chili with chili cook-off. I brought in people that he used to coach in softball, and they're painting picnic tables. I mean, that is the man when it comes to treating people the way they need to be treated, and just like everybody else. And I think that sometimes he doesn't blow his own horn, but we are lucky to have him, and he does a super good job. And I just want to make sure that we don't forget the skills that Thad has in this regard. And I just want to see it happen. I think that we spend a lot of time moving money around and having meetings, and we forget to stop and say, you know, we're lucky to have this professional person that really gets inclusion in our community and really does extra work. And it's just, it's a Thad day for me. Not a sad day, a Thad day. That I will never forget as long as I live, how happy those people were cutting those ribbons on those swings at Campbell Park. And if you had heard the screams of delight of those kids, my son is on the spectrum and he could not swing in a swing at 6 years old. And that kind of therapy is vital for kids and vital for young adults, struggling with mental illness, struggling with autism spectrum disorders, all kinds of stuff. And Thad gets it. He gets it 100%. And if some of you know Chief Moss, he totally got it. And he never let them be in the background. He's like, wait a minute, you're part of the team, get over here. You know, and they were just part of the crew. And you don't know that it's years later that these individuals are still saying, you know, Thad, he's my guy. You know, I mean, he's my guy. I mean, they're going, Crystal at the main office. They're like, Crystal took care of me. She knew me. I saw her at Fred Meyer's. It makes a difference. And we have amazing staff, and just to trust their judgment and not go out and ask strangers to do this. Let our staff do the job that they can do so well. And that's all I wanted to weigh in, and just be an advocate for our staff taking care of us and getting this done, because I know they can. That's all I
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you for
Jenny,
being part
thank
of my report. I appreciate it so much, you coming in and sharing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is our new business section, and the first item is CREST, proposals for proposals for Dalton Lake restoration. So Jason, I believe you're up.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
Well, Carmen, thanks for the introduction. Again, I'm Jason. I'm with the Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force. It's a mouthful, so we often just go by CREST. But yeah, I'm just here and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit, give you a background of CREST and then what we're about, and then most talk about, Dalton Lake and kind of what our plan is going forward. And if you don't mind, I was going to do I was hoping I could do a screen share, but I don't need to if you'd rather not.
I can set it up so you can.
Okay, yeah, right now it's disabled, but if I don't need to if that's too much trouble.
Nope, it's not. You should have that now.
Okay. Okay, let's see. What screen are you seeing now? Are you seeing the presenter view, or let's see, or my notes?
Community.
Yep. Okay. How about now? Are you seeing the presenter view one or the full screen slide?
Full screen.
Full screen, bridging community
Perfect.
ecology with Columbia River Estuary.
Excellent. Yeah, that's kind of our mission statement. As we like to say, we're kind of bridging the gap between community and ecology. So we also we work with a lot of folks, both private and public folks and agencies. And so we do quite a bit, but we like to kind of be the bridge in the gap between all those folks and bring everybody together. But CREST in general, we're a council of governments and we serve our local governments surrounding the Columbia River Estuary. We provide a variety of services. Those we have an in-house planner. And then we also have our own monitoring crew, and it's asking if somebody wants to come into I just admitted somebody, hopefully that's the right person. But we also have our in-house monitoring crew that are biologists that have been in the field for each of them over 10 years. And so they do all our pre and post restoration effectiveness monitoring. And then we have a crew of habitat restoration project managers, and that is my position in CREST. So we mainly in the last 10 years have been assisting Bonneville Power Administration and the Army Corps of Engineers with salmon recovery, but we also work with lots of folks in the state of Washington for salmon recovery, and we work with OWEB doing salmon recovery. Our background, we were formed in 1974, so we've been around for quite a while, but it was initially to help with the Columbia River Estuary Data Development Program, which was this kind of federally initiated program back in '78 and was completed in '84. But its purpose was kind of to dive in, and I don't need to go into depth too much about this, but kind of the scientific knowledge about the estuary and provide information about how we want to manage the land and water resources through public planning, permitting. And so that program was initiated by local governments and citizens who saw a need for that type of thing. We also helped with the Oregon Plan for Salmon and Watersheds. And like I mentioned earlier, Bonneville Power and us have entered into a contract in 2010, and that's to get these projects, these restoration projects on the ground. Some of the CREST council members are Clatsop County, Wahkiakum County, cities of Astoria, Warrenton, Beerheart, Seaside, Cannon Beach, Chilliwaco, Port of Astoria. And there's lots of benefits here, but basically we just try to provide really a cost-effective method for some of these larger entities and agencies. We have like a small, nimble group, so we can get action to happen quickly. A lot of the time, some of the partnering agencies we work for them to get a project on the ground, it takes multiple years. And because we're a small staff that's committed to this thing and has a lot of expertise, we can get these projects on the ground instead of, taking 5 years, we can get them done in 2 years or less if we have the support in place. And we can do anything from large scale infrastructure projects to smaller projects. Right now across the river in Washington, I'm working on putting in a bridge through State Route 401, and that's reconnecting over 2 miles of spawning habitat and 4 acres of intertidal rearing habitat that hasn't been connected since the highway was built in the early 50s and into the 60s. They put too small of a pipe through the road and essentially cut off all access for all that prime salmon spawning habitat. And then we also do smaller kind of just floodplain connections, replacing tide gates, littler things that don't involve a highway. And each of these projects is unique. They have their own slew of restoration benefits. So yeah, that's kind of some of the benefits of CREST. You guys may ask yourself, why restoration on the Columbia River? Well, as we know, salmon are hugely important to our culture and our economy. And the federal Columbia River power system and the series of dams have had a huge impact on the 13 listed species of salmon that we have in order to create that hydropower electricity. And so when you have these agencies and endangered species, there's a definite impact here, and the agencies are supposed to do no harm. So the Corps of Engineers, Bonneville, Bureau of Reclamation, they've had to go through this biological opinion, which requires a series of mitigation measures and called reasonable prudent alternatives. And one of those prudent alternatives is restoring habitat in the Columbia River estuary. So again, I don't need to dive into these, but the reasonable and prudent alternatives are basically actions that improve survival for all these listed salmon species. And those measures include protecting, restoring, riparian, and off-channel habitat, reconnecting floodplains, increasing fish access to productive habitat, and reducing predation. And there's a ton more information on this on salmonrecovery.gov if anybody wants to dive into that. So, we're talking about these things, and the Dalton Lake fits right into this. We kind of look for these projects that kind of fit the mold of a win-win situation. Dalton Lake's already this really amazing site, and it just doesn't quite have fish access right now. It's benefiting a lot of other flora and fauna, but it's not benefiting salmon as it is and stands today. So we're just like the many projects you see here. These are projects CREST has completed since 2010. These were all projects that were a pretty good fit for restoration, and we see Dalton Lake is fitting right in this. And you see this huge cluster of projects right there at Sauvie Island in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Dalton Lake is right in that mix, and so what we found and what a lot of the data suggests is that when you kind of can provide all these great sites nearby, it has an exponential increase in the value of that habitat and that stretch for fish. And so what we're looking to do is just kind of build upon all these nearby restoration efforts and just make this stretch of the river a really quality stretch for salmon, because as they head upstream, Portland, there's really no restoration opportunities there. So we're as these fish are migrating downstream or migrating upstream, we're trying to kind of prep the area for them and give them some really good habitat before they go into a much more kind of troublesome stretch. Getting into the process of what we're doing here, we try to identify, prioritize, and develop these potential habitat restoration projects and the scope, and we select restoration projects based on this technical evaluation scientific review. We created what we call the Get After It list, the GALE list, many years ago, over 10 years ago, and we're working our way through that list pretty quickly. And so it's becoming harder and harder to find good projects. They're getting a little bit more technical, whether that means they have more infrastructure or other elements. But we've selected this list of projects, and Dalton Lake has always been on the radar for some time, but because it does have a little bit more of a technical aspect, it's taken us a while to get to it. And then again, we typically design and implement 3 to 5 projects per year. This summer alone, CREST, I managed 3 restoration projects that cumulatively restored about 175 acres for salmon and other species as well. We definitely aim our projects to have multi-species benefits. And we coordinate and conduct action effectiveness monitoring and research of these projects. So we typically monitor them for a year or more before a project happens, and then we'll monitor a project for 5 years after to make sure that it's actually performing the way that we wanted it to. These species are coming back, and that it's providing the benefits that we hoped it would. And sometimes it doesn't work out quite right in the beginning, and this gives you plan or a way to have some adaptive management and to make those corrections so it does meet your goals. This is just kind of shows some of the monitoring. You know, we really do like to sample pre and post and see what fish are using the site before and show what are using them afterwards. Early on in my time with CREST, I've been with CREST for about 12 years now. I'm actually in this photo on the left. This was on the cover of the Oregonian many years ago. But we were doing sampling where we pull nets, and it was all catch and release, everything live. We aim for 0 mortality, but now we have to do a little bit different. The picture on the right are pit tag arrays. It's passive. It's less handling of these listed species because we don't want to cause any harm to them. So we're trying to restore habitat for them. So this is the less handling you do, in theory, you know, the less risk you have of having any sort of adverse impacts. But what we find is that, you know, when we restore these sites, salmon, it's regardless of how long it's been blocked off, salmon find it very quickly, and it's amazing. But focusing on Dalton Lake here, our goals really are just to improve, restore, and maintain those critical ecosystem processes. Like I said earlier, it's already a really high functioning site. It's just missing a few pieces to the puzzle. We want to promote multi-species benefits. There's already a beautiful plant community there. There is still a presence of reed canary grass, and there are some invasives associated with it being more of a pond as opposed to more of a natural feature. But we also want to maintain public access. This is the Parks and Trails Commission, and you already have a beautiful trail there. So anything we did to the site, for instance, if we decided to remove, or if the feasibility study decided the best route was to remove the water control structure that would improve the habitat there for all the species, then we would put in a footbridge that could accommodate pedestrians, bicycle traffic, and all those things. And also could provide a great educational opportunity. Right now we're in the process of, we put out an RFP to hire an engineering and design consultant to do this feasibility assessment for us. We received 6 proposals from highly qualified consulting firms. Those firms are listed there. We had Interfluve, LCE, which is Lower Columbia Engineering, OTAC, Wolf Water Resources, R2 Resource Consultants. They actually teamed up with Tetra Tech, so it's those 2 firms, and Stillwater Sciences. And CREST has worked with each and every one of these firms, with the exception of Stillwater Sciences, but they just brought on board an engineer that has designed 4 of our projects, and he's going to be their main point person. So we have lots of experience with these folks, and they've done great work for us in our past, and we're really confident that one of these firms that we select will do an amazing job. Next bullet is just process and timeline. The proponent selection, we're hoping to select a firm early next week. We need to go through our scoring process, which is we have qualifications, method and approach, and budget, and we have a list of questions for each one of those, and making sure their proposals address all those questions. And we try to, and we select the highest ranked candidate, and and it doesn't, budget is only one factor of that. We set this up as a not to exceed $65,000. So we know that we can design this thing, and based on the budget they provided, all of them came in under that 65,000. So it's the scoring process. I'd like to open it up to any one of you guys from the city of St. Helens and from Parks and Trails. If somebody is interested in being on the scoring board, I would be glad to have one or two folks join that. And it may actually kind of be helpful to get one of your guys' opinion on what you think of these proposals. But either way, I would love to share all the proposals with you guys. So whether you want to be on the scoring committee or not, you can read through them and see the level of expertise that each one of these firms brings to the table. And some of the other processes, it's going to start with data collection, background research. There's going to be a hydrologic model built for the site under its existing conditions, as well as its proposed conditions. And then from that modeling, the firms are going to come up with a series of alternatives, and we would bring those alternatives to all the stakeholders and get opinions on what we'd like to see there, what we wouldn't like to see, and hopefully arrive at a preferred alternative and bring that alternative to 30% design level. And from there, we would hopefully be able to get the rest of the design funded and the construction funded. But before we do that, we need to do this feasibility study to make sure that, that all the stakeholders are interested in such a thing, and make sure that it will provide benefits to fish and wildlife, and which I think we all know that looking at the site that it will. But yeah, so this is just kind of step one, and there's a lot to it, I realize, but I think that this is as quick of a crash course as I can give you, and I was shooting for 15 minutes, and I talked really quick and I went over by a little bit, but if you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to kind of take them now, and I'll exit out of this screen here. All right.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Does anyone have questions for Jason? Or comments? Jerry?
Yeah, I found the raised hand. I guess you don't see it now.
Oh, I'm really bad at monitoring that on Zoom.
So,
Sorry.
Jason, I'm sitting right above Dalton Lake right now, looking. I could see it if I just moved around this tree. A few years ago, I took a wetlands class at Portland State, and I wrote a term. Well, myself and I think 2 or 3 other people, we wrote a term paper about Dalton Lake. So, yeah, it's always been an interest of mine. So, yeah, I would like to be on the scoring committee.
Excellent. Well, I can send you, I think, Jerry, I'm trying to, there's been a lot of names here. I know that I have Doug's contact information, Sue, Lynn, I don't know who on this call. I'm not sure I have everybody's, but so if I could, if maybe Lynn or somebody could give me your contact information, I'll send you the proposals right after this meeting.
No, I can give it to you real quick. It's jerrybelcher@hotmail.com.
How do you spell your last name?
Belcher, Belcher, all lowercase. jerrybelcher@hotmail.com.
Perfect. Got it.
And I don't look at my emails all the time. So what's your heading going to be?
jsmith@columbiaestuary.org, and it'll be Dalton Lake will be the subject.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. I just want to say thank you. I think you should have been on that.
Thank you, Lynn, I think you should be on it also. Hey, I will while I'm talking here, one thing I will say, Lynn, and I was going to say this later in the meeting, even though that Jason wasn't here, is when they had the cleanup that you asked us to go to, I went down there and cut ivy, And it's the third time, Larry, one of my neighbors and I, we haven't done it the last 2 years, but for 2 years in a row, we cut a lot of ivy down there. And there was a couple places where there was immense amounts of ivy on the trees. And I think that ODOT hired a crew to go down there. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I found like 2 little areas down there where they missed the big ivy, and I got that off the trees. But if you go down there, there's a lot of trees, because this was probably about 1.5 years ago or so, Lynn, maybe they did this.
Okay. No,
So-
it was only about 6 months.
So the ivy's growing pretty fast. So, but there's a lot of ivy that's starting to grow up the trees, like 3 or 4 feet, and it's only about the size of a pencil, so it's really easy to get rid of. So there still needs to be, continuing efforts. There's just hundreds and hundreds of trees down there, so it'd be easy to get it off now.
We're trying to do a cleanup every month, but I think you were on the west side, weren't you, the lake?
Yes, I was on the west side over there.
I think all ODOT did was around the trail.
Oh no, someone has been over there. Well, if it wasn't ODOT, maybe it was the last couple years that I didn't show up, but someone's really gone over there and put a lot of work in.
Good. We'll get over there again. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jason? All right.
Sounds
Thanks for
good.
joining us.
Sounds good. We appreciate all the work that the Columbia River Estuary program does for our local communities.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy to help wherever we can, and I think that I was fortunate enough to live in St. Helens for a couple years early on in my tenure at CREST, and when we were doing a lot of the Sauvie Island projects, it was a nice spot for me to be right in the middle between Astoria and Portland and jump into those projects. And I appreciate the river system there, and just that Dalton Lake site is pretty incredible. It's a nice little gem. So any way we can kind of help your guys' mission and process there, we'd be happy to help.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Park of the Month, and I'm not sure who is leading that conversation. Is that you, Jerry?
Yeah, I asked Sherry to put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And so basically, Crystal's having a baby, or she had a baby?
Had a baby.
Had a baby. When's she coming back to work?
Probably a couple months.
Couple of months. So I don't know who brought this up at the last meeting, but I think it might have been you, Carmen.
Yeah, it was an idea, but.
Yeah, and so I just asked Sherry to put it on the agenda to see if, we wanted to go forward with it. I don't want to do it because I'm not a very good writer, but, Crystal is the communication, director of the city. I don't know what her official title is, but I mean, she's the communication person, and she's a really good writer. And I thought we could just add it to one of her jobs that she could do every month. But we could have a discussion about that and see where people want to go. What people think. Come on, John, say something. You're a writer.
Why do we wait till the first of the year?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I like to say Nob Hill should go probably when our wildflowers are going.
So do we want to wait until Crystal's back and have a conversation with her about it then, and try to plan out maybe a schedule for Park of the Month and some of the things that we want to bring up about them to feature the parks kind of at the right time of year?
Yeah, that
Go ahead,
sounds
Lynn.
good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And but I think it's also a good idea because it's communication to the public. When you are focusing on one park, then they're going to get more familiar with it, with all the information, going to it, seeing what that has to offer. So I think it's a good idea.
Because that all fit in real well with their monthly newsletter that the city puts out, to have a park of the month listed in the monthly newsletter.
What we were kind of thinking about is maybe an article in the local paper.
Both. Do it in both.
Or
Even
both.
local.
Yeah.
Great.
If you're going to write one, it can go both pretty easily.
I'm not a writer.
So do we have agreement that we'll revisit at the beginning of the year? I can put a reminder on my calendar to make sure we add it back to have Sherry add it to the agenda in January. If that sounds good to everybody.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. I'm just making a note so I don't forget. Okay.
Carmen, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Sherry and Sue, you guys have such beautiful backgrounds. Are you in those locations now, or are those fake backgrounds?
That's from the jury.
It's all fake.
Is those the three sisters back there?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Where are you at, Sherry, by the way? Sherry's not talking.
Versus Montana.
Had to find my button. I'm in Montana.
What?
Is that Big Sky?
What, Sherry, you don't
look
like
at
my
Sue.
background?
I want to be where Sue is right now.
Yeah.
Sherry, is that Big
Ooh.
Sky?
I don't know where it is, but that's where I want to be.
All right, we're gonna keep this moving. Old business. Next up is all-inclusive playground equipment. I guess to get that started, we got the funding from MODA. It's been received. 37,000 was the total that we got through that MODA funds. So that was half MODA, half Blazers is where the funds came from. So Sue, do you want to give an update on kind of what has happened in the past month, where things are at, and how we're moving forward?
Yeah, sure. We're really trying to fast track this as much as we can, and despite the earlier conversation, I think we all appreciate all the work that Thad has done and all the research and everything that's went into looking at the types of playground equipment that's available. When we first looked at those structures, though, there was two important things. Number one, we didn't have the all-inclusive play included as large of a feature as we are looking at now, because the MODA grant didn't exist. That just wasn't part of the vision. The other thing that we didn't take into consideration at the time when we reviewed the play structures was our requirements that by law, that we have to get competitive bids. And especially right now, where we have a lot more eyes on this project because of the grant, because we did win that. And I'll tell you, as soon as, even while we were in the competition, we were getting emails and phone calls from vendors and people that had worked on other parks around the state and around the Northwest, that they're like, oh, you have to come, you have to use our stuff, you have to do this, and look into this. And so we have a lot of people looking at this project, so we need to make sure that we do it legally, which is we need to go through the correct procurement process, which we weren't on that trail before. We also need to make sure that what we do is going to be something that is going to be right for the space, and it's something that is going to be right for the community. So that's where a lot of the input from Thad and Shauna as well, because she's been quite involved with a lot of the groups that have been playing in the park. But certainly Thad has got the knowledge, and he knows what the people that come to the parks, what they're looking for. So that input there is it's invaluable. There's no other way around it. So in the meantime, we just got the notice of the award a couple of weeks ago. But even before that, we were starting to look at what we could possibly do, knowing that we had won and knowing that we were going to be able to move forward with this. And so looking at what types of equipment are available, what types of equipment we think would be beneficial to this park and to our community. So I might want to share. The last week, Carmen and Shauna and I went and looked at a couple of the newer all-inclusive play parks that have been constructed around Portland, and I believe one or two of these MOTA funded parks. Just the one, okay. So let me see if I can.
I believe it was Cully, right, Shauna? That was the MOTA funded.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one.
Okay, I want to share this screen, I think. Let's see. What are you guys seeing? Anything?
AC Harper's.
Harper's, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through some of these photos just to look at some of the equipment that we saw. So can you see my cursor moving?
Mhm.
Okay, so this is an adaptive swing, and it's actually one that we plan to put a style that we plan to put over in Godfrey Park as well. One of the features that we saw in two of the parks, which seem to be incredibly popular, are these hills here, and the hill is covered with fall protection, so that's all fake cushioned grass. Which is similar to the type of fall protection that we want to see in the McCormick project. And then there's different ways to get up the hill. And this park, there's a big rope climber. You can just try to climb right up the side of the hill, or if you can see the flat spot, there's actually a spiral sidewalk that wraps around and goes up to the top of the hill, and then there's some seating up at the top. And then on the back side, these photos don't show it, but on the back side, right, this here is a slide that then goes down the other side of the hill. So those all seem to be extremely popular. And then just some other, these are all all-inclusive type of features, different types of merry-go-rounds, the little musical instruments, climbing features, and then of course swing sets that have the adaptive swings in them, and toddler swings. Here's another park. This is Thomas Cully Park. This is another one of those hillsides with the climbing structures. This has got rocks. We might be able to find a few rocks around this town that we could potentially use. And again, these are the types of things that we want to see in Godfrey Park as well. But it would just be a hillside, not a full rounded hill. So this is one side of that hill, and then on the back side you can see the slide, and that's similar to the one that was in Harper's Playground. This double slide here. This is another feature on that same hillside. And here's a smaller slide for smaller kids. Again, the musical instruments, and then just the little sensory items that for smaller kids, or potentially children in wheelchairs or anything. And then just some random equipment here, a big sandbox, and another one of the swing sets. Here's the adaptive swing. Some seating. They had very nice covered seating areas for people to sit and watch their kids play. This is a nice view of how in the center of the park was the hill with the slide and the different climbing features, and then on either side are seating areas, and then spread out on either side of that were some of the other play structures that you just saw there. And then this is the park over in Happy Valley. A funky little climbing structure, and these all have features that are low, so kids with maybe some physical difficulties and things like that would have different things that they can do on these kinds of structures. The same thing here, we've got some really low bars. So kids of all abilities and things can get onto these structures. Another type of merry-go-round, hanging bars, the swings again. This, we talked to some people that were actually using this park, and they said that the kids like to sit in this chair and it just spins around in a circle. Okay. Some more sensory equipment. So these are all just examples of the types of things that we want to be able to install at McCormick Park. So have we come up with the actual equipment? No, but these are examples of the type of equipment. And the next step is we already have all of the contacts with the different manufacturers that have already been approved by the state, and those people are going to propose. We're going to give them a list of the types of equipment we want, and then they will propose a layout and costs. Of course, we have to consider that, but we also need to consider locally sourced. For the ability to not only install the equipment, but also maintain, get parts, and then the fall protection is going to be a big part of it. What type of fall protection do they offer, and the costs of some of that. So where's all this going to go? Let me see if I got, okay. Do you see a different screen, or are you still looking at playground equipment?
Still the playground.
Okay, let's
Here
we go. New. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you know, Thad said over here, we're in the red. Can you see this picture of McCormick?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so the outline in red here, this would be the prime area. It's where the existing playground equipment is and the swings, but we can expand around that quite a bit. The existing playground area is about 50 by 50, if that gives you an just kind of a oversight of how big this area is. The area in green, nice open space, but Thad said that area is prone to flooding. So we don't want to go and start putting equipment in there right away if it's just going to get flooded out or not usable during those times until we can resolve that drainage issue. So I'll be working with him over the winter to try to figure out how we can maybe take care of that and get some more usable space out over in this area. So we know our budget. We know basically what type of equipment we want to incorporate into this area here. And so by the next meeting, we should have some sort of a plan to show everybody.
Cool. How much is our budget now?
Pardon?
How much is our budget now?
Well, with the added MODA funds, and if we're going to add, the mayor wanted to add some additional funds to that, so we're going to be about $200,000, which is another reason we have to do this, go through all the right channels as far as purchasing this equipment. This is a large purchase.
Thank you for walking through all of that, Sue. It was really interesting to go and visit some of those other parks and see what kind of stuff they had to offer and talk to some of the people there who use the equipment and hear about how much kids really enjoy the equipment. So it was pretty cool. And I think, Sue, is the plan that once we get the proposals back, we'll have specific scoring criteria, and then that will be provided to Parks Commission, and then as members of the Parks Commission, we'll all be able to do scoring to help determine what actually goes at McCormick
Well, that's a
Park.
good question. It would, do we want to just have a group of that's part commission and part staff and do the scoring and then bring that scoring back to the Parks Commission, or would the Parks Commission, would you prefer to score it as a commission?
Having people who are interested, both city staff and Parks Commission, just a mix would be good. So I guess similar to the discussion earlier, maybe those who are interested can reach out to be part of that scoring.
Yeah, because obviously Thad's going to need to be a part of that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, not just commissioners. So
yeah.
Jerry's hand is up.
I don't want to be part of that scoring committee, but you might want to, have maybe some local people that are interested. Or is this going to go towards, eventually go to the citizens before it's all done, or is it going to be just done by the staff and with recommendations from the Parks and Trails Commission?
Well, that's dependent on what you guys want to do. That we're trying to get this done as quickly as possible. So if we stop to yes, we want to show the community what the different options are, or at least what our selected option will be.
So if we get community people involved, it's just going to take a lot longer.
Well, if we stop just to have them actually select individual pieces, but getting feedback, I think, is important.
Well, remember, you guys do represent the community. So.
Okay, Thad, I don't have a problem with just us doing it, but I just threw that out there.
And I don't know if Shauna had any input on that or not.
No, I think just, how you guys announce your meetings, that you're going to have a meeting that's discussing the selection, and if people want to come and make a public comment here, they could, and not necessarily have to be a part of the total selection process.
Yeah,
I
would
like
agree with
that. I like that idea. Yeah.
And we've had this on our agenda pretty much every meeting for the past few months, and I think it will continue to be on the agenda. And so we're making it, I would say, pretty accessible for the community to be able to come forward and provide input and feedback on what they would like to see.
I did ask Matt if there could be an announcement for how much the Blazer grant or the MOTA grant was for, and also kind of just an update of what's happening with the park right now, because I keep getting a lot of questions about that. So just like a brief overview that it's like in planning stages. It was. So I think they're looking at doing different kind of small articles of updates for the city, and I think that's going to be one that will be in there with just some really factual bullet points of what's going on with it. So it's not a wonder of what's going on with the park.
Awesome. Thanks for coordinating that, Shauna. Any other feedback or questions? All righty. So I think we can move on to, next up is old business master plan list additions. Does anyone have anything that you'd like to add to our running list? Alrighty, nothing there. So next up is discussion items and other business, which we typically kind of handle together. Shauna, do you want to give, usually I have you on the agenda, but I didn't add you this time, sorry. Do you want to give an update just on rec program? Anything you want to report out?
So we're still doing the Let's Play, and that's every week rotating parks. We've been getting the most participants at Godfrey and Gamble, which has been awesome. I think people walking by are just seeing something's going on, so they're coming over. That's for elementary age youth. We're providing some sort of STEAM activity and some sort of physical fitness activity from 3 to 4. So if you know anybody, have them come on down. And then we just started a Nature Buddies program, which is a program over at McCormick Park from ages 1 to 4 years old, and we're just walking on the trails there. So if you have any grand kiddos or little kiddos, come on over and we will get them all muddy. We're gonna make mud pies here soon, so that will be fun. Other than that, we're just gonna start sprinkling in things as guidelines allow, and we plan on being in the parks even if it's rainy because it's Oregon. So we're just gonna see what we can do.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Does anyone else have discussion? Oh, Howie, go ahead.
Okay. Just mainly wanted to bring up, we had the Portland Garden Club come out last Thursday. We had 22 ladies from the Portland Garden Club who came out to see the park and kind of see where the $500 grant, where some of that money's going. And that leads me to that we've got our semi-annual work party coming up on first Saturday in November, and we're hoping to be doing a bunch of planting with a bunch of native plants that we're going to be getting from a native plant nursery on Sobeys Island. And so we're hoping to get a lot of planting done then. Also, just want to say that I saw the largest, I don't even know how to describe it, it was probably like a 3 or 4 point buck in Nob Hill Nature Park the other day, just laying down, just having a great time, just laying there looking around. And so that was real amazing to see. I have not seen that big of a buck in there. And the other one still is that we're still getting a lot of dumping from the neighbors over at Gray Cliffs off of River Street, almost more than ever now. So I don't know, if you guys don't really want to take action on that, but I think eventually we're going to have to figure out a way more than me just calling code enforcement, that the Parks Commission eventually is going to have to take a look at that and see if there's a way that we can try to come up with some solutions on trying to stop the dumping from the top of the cliffs. So that's all I have for now.
So Howard, what time is your, on the first Saturday in November, what time are you going to do that?
1 to 4. And we're meeting at the sewage treatment plant and asking people to bring their own tools, since we're not wanting to share tools, and bring your own snacks this year.
What kind of tools do you want people to bring?
Shovels, clippers, and gloves.
Thank you.
Okay.
Howard, how many pairs of gloves do you need?
Well, it's more just people should bring their own gloves is what it comes down to. We're with the COVID, we're not really sharing things like that anymore. We used to be able to have boxes of gloves, but we're staying away from that. I mean, if you wanted to bring some in case somebody didn't have some, we'd always take a small donation and hand them out to people. So
Well, I'm gonna grab some from work.
what was that?
I was just gonna grab some from work to give to you.
Oh, okay. Yep. Few pairs, I don't know, half dozen, but they always come in handy. If we don't give them out then, we can give them out at the next work party too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Does anyone else have items for discussion? Lynn?
I've noticed that McCormick Park's getting a lot more people in it, especially the skate park. And they filmed a movie there, or TV, Netflix show.
That's cool.
Well, Dalton, I've got a couple of updates. Surveyors came out. I got a notice from Sue that surveyors came out and put in stakes on the north boundary. And that was pretty important to us. That's along the River Estates in Columbia City. It's quite a fine boundary line there. And so there had been some discussion on that. But anyway, it's all done now. And also Sue notified us that we'll be able to have our kiosk and our bike rack and 3 benches and some signs installed in the next 2 weeks.
Great.
So
Awesome.
pretty happy about that.
Weather depending and
Weather depending,
Yeah,
yes.
But that's about what they expect is be a couple weeks.
Okay.
Well, it looks sunny where you are.
That's it for now.
All right. Does anyone else have updates?
Not unless you want to see pictures from the survey.
I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I was trying to figure out if I could do this as a slideshow.
It'd be great if you could send me some of those.
Yeah, they're
Sure.
big files, but yeah, if
Yeah.
your inbox will take it, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so
Come on.
can you see this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is probably the worst encroachment where this pink flag is on the stake. To the left is their property and to the right is Dalton Lake property. So there's quite the hedge there.
Wow. Okay. I only saw the marker on the street. You know, as you come in from Fourth.
This is the next one. So here you can see this is that same yard. If can you see this another picture here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So where the pink flag is, their fence, this hedge, it's all on the Dalton Lake property. That's
Wow.
the worst encroachment.
Wow.
And the rest of them, you probably are aware where they've got the planter beds down
Right.
further on down. But this yard, which is closest to the Rutherford pathway,
Right.
this is the worst encroachment here.
So this is the first house on Fourth before you get to. Okay.
Pretty much the first house. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have the picture of where that's at, but yeah, it's pretty much the first one that backs up to. I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out by the nicely trimmed hedge and all of that.
Right.
So what happens with that? I guess now that it's known, what are the next steps?
I don't.
Or
That's
are
a
there
darn
any?
good question.
Well,
That's
Sue,
Because that's
if,
ODOT's property, right?
Yeah, it belongs to ODOT.
Sue, if you went to the
Since the city has the intergovernment agreement with ODOT to take care of that property, to manage that property, then I think that needs to be a communication to possibly the Columbia City planning group or their city manager, just to alert them that that people are that far off. Let Columbia City deal with it rather than St. Helens staff going on, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that just what it is now is a matter of communicating to those people that they're over the line. They maybe didn't know they were over the line. Who knows? And so I think the most tactful way of communicating would be to communicate with the city of Columbia City and allow them to kind of resolve that issue.
Have they not called with that post in the middle of their yard there and asked what it's about?
Nope.
They've not said anything?
Nope.
Wouldn't you think they'd be curious? I would be if
I would be.
Yeah. So who's going to notify them? I mean, obviously they went to their yard. How was that communication done between AKS and the owners of the property?
Get John Walsh to do that, I would imagine. I'll alert John Walsh to it anyway. Sue, if you could shoot him the all of that and let the staff deal with it, Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
as far as the surveyor, if they were entering property then they would either go to the door and talk to somebody at the house, and if nobody was there, then they would leave a notification that they were there.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think they're required by state law. They're allowed to go onto private property in order to do survey, but but they have to provide a notification. So.
Sue, is that whole
Jerry
fence
has
there?
his,
I beat
Jerry
you
has
to
his
it,
hand
Don.
up.
I had my hand officially up.
Yes, he does.
Hey, Sue, when you're
Yeah.
looking at that fence, you're looking at that fence there, what's to the right of that fence? Is there a little swale in there?
I don't know.
So the trail that goes down to the river there, through the gate.
Yeah.
So is that yard parallel to that trail that goes down to the lake?
Well, let me show you which lot that is. Let me get my map up here.
Let me yell at my dog. Katie, dry up.
Now, a couple of years
I
ago,
would
didn't the city allow them or somebody to run some type of sewer line also through that area too? Wasn't there something about that it was easier for a sewer line or a stormwater line or something?
They were gonna put a sewer pressure line, but I don't think they did.
Because I knew there was
a while
some
back they ran a
on
water
that.
line. That fence is not on their property?
That
sounds like no.
No, the fence is not on their property. So, okay, let me get the GIS and, oops. Well, okay, go back. And, okay, so the lot that it's on is this one that's highlighted.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the one I thought it was on. Okay.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see that that area kind of behind the property line is cleared out.
Yeah, you can see the trail way down to the right there.
Yeah, way down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Doug that we'll let the two cities deal with this. But my initial reaction is that something we really want to put all the time and energy in to fight?
Not the Parks Commission. Absolutely not. I mean, we've already weighed in on it in a sense.
No.
It's a staff issue at this point, as well.
Yeah, but does the city really want to even wade in on it? Because I've walked down that trail quite a few times, and I've looked off to the left there, and you can't even hardly see those houses there.
Yeah.
That's off to the left. I mean, is it a battle that the city really wants to fight?
I don't
really
think it's a
leave that up to
battle,
the
Jerry.
city.
I just think it's a sense of communication.
Okay.
You
Well,
know,
I think they should know that I think they should definitely know that they're encroaching.
Exactly.
Well, there's a section thing, and it's not as in favor as much anymore, called adverse possession. And I don't know how long they've been there, but that River City Estates, whatever it's called, it's been there quite a while. Since at least before '96.
Well, they'd have to go up against the ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation.
Yeah, I know.
Good luck.
That's not a battle you're going to win, probably.
I hate to say, I just don't see that as a big issue. But that's me.
We have the same thing at Godfrey with sheds and garages that are over the property line.
Yeah.
Well, this all came about when I believe our Public Works, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, a couple individuals were down there understanding that it was an intergovernment agreement to, to help promote that area as a wild area and help promote the fauna, to encourage the fauna to grow. So, they had threw their hands in the air going, well, these people are mowing, had it mowed. Did they not, Sue?
Yeah, they
had it
did.
mowed about
After they were told that it was a nature preserve and that they weren't supposed to disturb the vegetation, they still hired a landscaper to come and mow that.
So they went in 50 feet at least into the wetland area and mowed it. I mean, so our Public Works people are going, what do we do? And so, Jerry, it just isn't that hedge. It's the whole idea that they have, that maybe a lot of individuals feel that they can do anything they want into the Dalton Lake area. And 40, 50 feet of mowing is substantial.
Oh no, I agree that, the other thing is too, these people put a lot of time into their backyard. It looked pretty good, nice fence and everything else. The other thing they could, the fence could be moved back to the property line, and then the city, we could replant that with native plants like Howard's done. I'm not opposed to totally take them to it, but is it a battle we really,
It shouldn't be a battle. It should be a matter of communication.
Wondering too if it couldn't be a bargaining chip with freeing up some more access from the Columbia River side and some parking along that 4th Street access. That could be a little bit of a bargaining chip.
You can threaten to put in poison ivy too.
Yeah, there you go.
Little poison oak.
Yeah.
All right, let's move this forward. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to keep things moving. Is there anything else that anyone wants to discuss as other business? All righty. With that, I think we can adjourn the meeting.
Good work, Parks Commission.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.